Hello traders, Jonathan with Forex Flow. Want to go over the chart real quick and a trade in this environment. I think it'll help training wise in this current kind of really squeeze push environment. We first of all need to understand that the kind of market we've been in is just an established kind of mini trend. So a lot of traders hold trades through that, so the market continues to push them to try to margin them out, usually smaller retail traders. So it's kind of one-sided. That being said, the market really only trends, moves like this probably less than 20% of the time, in a given year. So for the majority of the time, this is not going to be a market dynamic, but it can be a very dangerous environment if you don't know how to recognize that, or you don't have a plan. So, in using the levels, I kind of want to, go over just a couple trades that might help you understand how to manage a trade that overshoots the cap. The levels don't hold during the day, or it doesn't even give you the 20 pip bounce, which will happen the majority of the time. But when we get in a market like this and we don't even see, like yesterday on the euro, we've seen this before. It did give a bounce, maybe 20 pips. Knowing that it's counter trend, you definitely want to stay tight with it. So if it's not bouncing, but it's getting you 15, 20 pips above an entry, you want to protect the entry. Came down to the cap yesterday, gave a bounce. See if I can move my chart a little bit. At 23.87 yesterday, so bounced up 24.10 if you took the cap entry, another 20 pips. But you won't get tight because the market's just, there's not a lot of bounce action. So it comes through after the real shallow bounces, comes through the cap in Asia, kind of flat lines in Asia, and this is where, in a market like this, I typically will send an Asia update, especially if a cap is breached, kind of give traders an idea of what to do. So it's pretty important that you check your emails as well. Let me so here, this was last night, May 30th, about 9 p.m. Eastern. And basically, the Asia session, this was for the Asia session, that the market should rebalance a little bit, meaning that there should be some type of bounce. So if it's moved past the cap and you're either still in the trade or you want to get back in the trade, the suggestion to handle in this environment is either the next kind of zone that I give, or wait until the level is recaptured, and that's what I want to show you on the chart, what that means. Same thing with these other pairs. And then I did say odd was now worth buying, which I hadn't had a buy on the odd in a week or so. It's been a while, but with a 96.51 cap, and actually if you got the email on the odd last night or whatever, at the time it went out, it bounced up to 97.61, so decent bounce on that. And then today, same cap's a little lower, but same buy level. So when I see that, then it's possibly towards the end of a mini trend, and we'll get a decent bounce. But you always got to keep risk tight and protect things. Let's go back to the euro on that. So what I say here is that the market should rebalance. So if you want to enter long, or if you're just holding the trade, the market typically will give you an opportunity the majority of the time to get out of your entries, even if it passes the cap. It usually does it before the next, it's not every time, but the majority of the time, especially if I'm updating and I say something like that. But you see this here, we did get it, but this is not a recapture of the levels. You can kind of just visually look at it and tell that, and you'll see this, that if price moves in and it doesn't recapture the levels, um, and we're in an established downtrend, then they can become, resistance, and the trend will continue down and find a stronger point until it recaptures it. Once it recaptures it, it kind of confirms a higher move. It's not going to be such a steep downtrend. That being said too, do realize I have two accounts. I'm in the States, but if you're outside, you can run both sides of the trade, which, the past two Mondays, and even before me, but I know that some of you guys have been on only a couple weeks. We caught up here on this correction into the 128, so we caught a sell there. This week, the sell zone nailed the 126. So, if you're a trader, you understand that the euro's in a downtrend. So, when you get a trigger with the trend, those are the trades that you might want to consider just holding longer, or having more size on trades that are with the trend. These counter trend trades, eventually the trend will end, obviously. Even if it doesn't, it'll produce a 2 to 3, 4 figure bounce. So you don't want to be caught in that. But the counter trend trades you got to be a little more vigilant with, on an intraday basis, especially when you get a really kind of steep mini trend like we've seen lately. It's not going to happen in a whole year, like I said, 10%, 15% of the time, but you need to understand the dynamics, and how to handle it, and how I typically handle it, so you can kind of interpret my updates. And then, so we see this morning it didn't recapture today's levels, which were similar to my Asia update buy level. So didn't recapture, came back down, and checked the buy zone this morning. So far it's holding, bouncing off of there. So same rules will apply. You want to move to break even. We got NFP tomorrow, so you got to remember that as well. But you want to, look at the dollar Swiss. You'll see this, and I drew yesterday and today's level, so that's why it looks confusing. But 97.23 was yesterday's cap, 44 was today. So it's starting to narrow. Came back below entry, never really got past the cap, so the trade, from yesterday technically still valid. And you got to make a decision. But when it's a counter trend trade, that should affect kind of your monitoring. You're needing to be in front of it and watch price action. I mean, if it's not breaking down, the revisit, continue to push until clears enough to get a move, and then use the cap as an entry and use today's cap as a guide. Swiss was contained yesterday, CAD was. The euro and the cable were really pushing. The cable really pushed. So, and you'll notice if you're with us a long time on this that during these kind of squeeze mini trends, the cable is going to be the most volatile, and it's going to breach the cap the most of the time. So if you recognize an environment like this, you might just want to, if you don't have a lot of experience, just stay out of the cable trades and just stick with the other pairs. We'll see the CAD. The CAD yesterday came into the sell zone a couple times, 30 pips, and then 40, 50 pips. Third time you don't hear this morning, you're not going to enter this again. But today's sell levels are pretty close. The cap was the same, and the cap right now is holding it So an entry off of there. Like we look at this British pound in the Asia update here. I mentioned recapturing the levels, and you see that it can even recapture yesterday's cap, which means there's a lot of pressure on that to go lower. So you can always use these levels, especially intraday sessions. If it doesn't recapture it, stay with a sell trade or enter a sell trade. You still need to put a stop in case the market shocks to the upside. But you'll see this visual guide that you don't. And even today, the cable I think is pushed below today's cap. So really, like I said, the cable's going to be the most volatile. It can produce the most pips, but it also can be the most difficult to manage at times because it will have wide movements. So if you're uncomfortable with large swings, especially in these kind of environments, which is not going to be most of the time, but it can be times that can do a lot of damage to your account if you don't know how to handle it. So anyway, I wanted to kind of give you a visual picture of that since we're currently in that. Had an Asia update, how to kind of handle these trades, what it looks like when we're in an established kind of mini trend and you're taking a counter trend trade. You want to stay tight on the bounces, and if you do get a breach, then if it doesn't recapture it, you might want to just exit your trades at entry and look for a better entry lower, or wait till it recaptures it to enter a long, which should shift the trend at least for the moment to head back. If not, you just continue to take the buy zones, sell zones, use the caps, and over time you're going to be okay. It's just using this stuff for 6 years now. I understand that in these minority of times when there is this kind of trend that is kind of a steep trend, the best way to kind of trade and handle this stuff. And I know a lot of traders aren't as experienced with that, and they might not be trading both sides of the trade. I'm still holding. I tend to hold both sides, especially with a trend like this. If I catch it, I'll hold the sell trade, and then I'll use another account where I will take the counter trades off of. So it's almost, I'm taking when I enter a buy and I'm running a sell too, then I'm hedged pretty much at that point. So when I release the buy on the bounces, and if the market moves back lower, then I'm just adding to my gains. Okay, guys, hope this helps a little bit. These environments aren't going to be, it's not going to be, like this all the time, but you will see this in currency over and over and over at certain times of the year. There's going to be a pretty steep kind of push or trend, and so you need to be able to recognize that and kind of shift your strategy just a bit from a sense of risk and size, and knowing exiting a trade and getting a better entry, or especially with these levels, because it'll be a good visual guide whether they hold or if they breach during a time like this, how to handle it session to session. And I'll update during these times probably a lot more because of that. Okay, guys, hope that helps. Continue to try to do some more videos, try to help you get a picture and get used to how to manage and use these flows day to day. Alright, guys, till next time, good luck.